Up to you to bring snacks.
Okay.
Calling to order at 6:04. Changes and additions to the agenda?
I'd be so sad.
Nothing? We're good?
Yep.
Approval of minutes from last month. Does everyone?
Yep, we approve. Sorry, we
All-
abstain.
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
All approve, what did we say?
All in favor?
All make a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for
Second.
There you
the
go.
7th. You can't second, you weren't there.
I can second if I wasn't there.
Oh.
Yeah, you just
Oh,
can't
I'm sorry, I
vote.
thought you can't vote. Second, I'm sorry,
All approve the minutes? Say yea.
Aye.
Aye.
We can do it all together, right?
Yep,
Yep.
say any opposed and any abstentions.
Any opposed?
Abstention.
And abstentions. So we
One
have
abstention.
3 ayes and 1
Colleen Spence
abstention.
abstains.
Abstains. Any public participation or announcements? Do we have anyone online that I can't?
Stacy Bradley.
Stacy Bradley. Hey,
Hi,
Stacy.
Stacy.
Any public, Stacy, you're our only public member. Do you have any announcements?
Nope.
Any other announcements? Excellent. Well, we're cooking. Student presentation of learning, I'm assuming that's.
Which is included in the administrative report, so
Exactly.
we'll,
I
okay.
feel like we need to start.
Maybe what we could,
And
yeah.
then
we
rock
just
on to
have
the administrative report.
Just have that be a subset of
Yes.
the administrative report, the student
see
will
that.
with it. Okay. And I will.
But listed under the
Administrative report,
letters.
yeah. I'll present.
What?
A 4. All right. Some photo highlights to start us off. We, some kinders hanging there, the one with the Adidas sweatshirt. We had some of our band and chorus performers at, it was Hartford, right, Wes? It was Hartford, at Districts.
It was awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome. We had, the photo on the bottom right is our first graders leading the all-school assembly just before the November holiday. Yep, and we had, the bottom middle was an image of our lunch with a loved one in November. It was really well attended.
It was awesome.
It was really fantastic. And the photo on the very left-hand side, celebrating Tina Skihan, who was named a UVM Outstanding Educator. So Christine and I did go up to UVM with Tina and celebrated her, which was wonderful.
Awesome.
And I think we talked about it a little bit last month, but one of the many things that Tina does is there's every day she helps facilitate the morning messages for students. And so here's one example of what they look like. I should probably turn that. Should I keep it off? Will it we hear it if I hit play?
Probably.
Okay, all right. Where they interview a new staff member, Mike Foley.
Good morning, Hartland. It's the morning news this week with 4th graders Christopher, Isaac, and Owen.
Today is Tuesday, November 14th. Today's lunch is beef tacos. Tomorrow's lunch is mac and cheese.
And today is Picture Retake Day. Today, we have a teacher in the spotlight, Mike Foley, interviewed by Owen.
I am Owen. I'm here to celebrate one of our music teachers, Mr. Foley. Can you tell us a bit about yourself. Mr. Foley.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So my name is Mr. Foley. I'm your music teacher. I grew up in Canada, and when I moved to America, I moved to New Mexico before I lived in Nebraska, and I lived in Nebraska for 13 years.
Mr. Foley, can you tell us what you like, what kind of music you like?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like listening to jazz music, and I really like pop music. I think they're both really, really fun. I also like classical music, pretty much everything really, but definitely jazz.
One last question. What is something you are grateful for?
I am grateful for my family. I love my mom and my dad and my sister, and I have 3 great dogs, and I'm married to an awesome husband. So I'm really thankful for my family, and I'm really thankful to get to teach at Hartland with so many wonderful students and other grown-ups. I feel lucky to be here.
Wait, where was Kristen? Oh, maybe.
I love the long pause.
So just a sampling that students get to see every day, which,
Every day.
yeah.
How does she do it every day? That's amazing.
Yeah,
Kids do it.
the kids do it with her help, but it's, yeah.
Like in the morning though, or they do it the day before?
Yeah, we make like when I was doing it, we made like a sheet, and then for the week we had like checkpoints, and we usually do it for the week before, so it was a week ahead.
That's still a lot of work. And does like every class get to do this? So like kindergartners, first graders?
They can, yeah. I happened to be in a kindergarten class. It must have been the end of last week where in the morning video they were talking about if anyone wants to do it, come on. And the kindergartners were like, yes, can we do it? And the teacher's like, it would probably be the cutest morning message there is.
Or the most in.
I'd be like, hello.
So that's a sampling of what people see every day. A simple Woods update is they've wrapped up their work and they'll continue again once the weather cooperates for them, and they'll get back to working.
What have they accomplished?
They worked on there is a path, a pretty good looking path. It's not finished yet, but they're working on, I don't know all the language that they have. Like the path is there, but they're also making the ground near it safe, whatever that. They
Where's
have some
Nikki?
nice.
Stabilize?
I know
No.
to stabilize the thing. They're doing all.
But they're making it like the right
Grade.
and grade, and so they're bringing in a whole bunch of material. And
Yes.
putting it
There was a
all-
great article about it in the Weekly Standard.
Yes, RJ, right? I think
Wrote it?
he came here to the
Okay.
school and
Makes
chatted with
sense.
me a little bit. Yes, yep.
Nice.
I checked in with Jamie, and the invitation to neighboring public school communities who do not offer a drama program hasn't put out. We don't have any feedback at this point. The applications aren't due yet, so we don't have a sense on numbers, but once we have that, I can circle back with the group and let you know what it is. And pick up and drop off, we talked a little bit about that last month, so I did ask Officer Paul to kind of do some observations in terms of his perspective from a law enforcement standpoint around, is there anything we could do differently?
The 8 minutes that it takes.
And he really said to me there really was not another way to safely do pickup without essentially redesigning the road that's there, which would cost taxpayers a lot of money. And so his suggestion was that is, with the design that we have, the most efficient way to do it.
And have people listen to the don't show up an hour ahead situation?
Mostly, yes.
Please.
At least, yes. I would say mostly, so that there been some days where there's a little bit of backup here and there for a variety of reasons. That happens sometimes.
In the afternoon. What was the question about it?
There's sometimes, so our pickup at the end of the day is typically somewhere between 8 to 10 minutes total. We start at 2:25, end at about 2:32, 2:33, depending on the day. And there was some concern around it going on Martinsville Road, which is a little bit of the case, especially at the beginning. And as we start to move cars, they do move pretty quickly through there. So there is a little bit of a backup, but Officer Paul didn't have any tweaks or adjustments from his perspective that we should make.
It sounds like if it's not working, the next step would be separate bus driver pickup times, release times. right?
Yeah, yep.
Or
There-
bus and pickup.
Yeah. That's what I mean,
Bus.
yeah, sorry,
Yes.
like
Not a
bus and
separate
cars.
For each bus, that would be.
Yeah.
Right, no,
Yeah.
sorry, separate bus
Bus at a
from car pickup.
And I don't know if we're there at that point, but it's not that it's completely off the table forever happening.
Who made the complaint
There were some,
concern?
yeah, there were some residents that reached out to the interim town manager and spoke with him.
So people that live nearby?
Yeah,
From
yep,
Martinsville.
yep. And so Martin and I spoke, and they're just, from our perspective as well as Officer Paul's, there really is not at this moment another way to help solve
Yeah.
that. And West, I'm turning it over to you. And what you'll probably notice, the rest of the budget is after Christine, so I figured that was more the bulk of the conversation to do after that.
Okay, so I did basically the same thing last time, but a little bit different. So I know it's kind of like, you know, on the surface, but I think the theme of the month was food. Thanksgiving, obviously lunch with a loved one went like really well. The buffet, it was like awesome, like all the food like amazing. And I think lunch is a great time. Like now that we're all kind of settled in and all the classes are going kind of smoothly, lunch is a great time because we get to like be social, talk with our friends, and you know, and I'm kind of basing this off of middle school, but I assume based on my experience in elementary school it's the same. Like lunch is like, you know, always amazing because you get to eat food and hang out with your friends. And it's really a great time to, like, if you're not having a great morning or yesterday wasn't good, it's always a great time to reset. And Thanksgiving, so I just kind of thought that was a good theme. General news, lunch with a loved one, once again, went really well. It was like, there were like, I don't know how many people.
There was a lot.
But there was a lot of
great
people.
turnout.
Like I was turning my tray in like a little bit late, and there was like a line of adults just like out the hallway. It was awesome. Turkey trot was a lot of fun. With I saw lots of enthusiastic participation, because like a lot of people did it, especially in middle school, that I did not think were gonna do it. So that was really great to get to watch them do that. And it's more of a middle school thing. We went to go see Hartford's production of Curtains, which is musical, and it was really fun just to get to go see Hartford one, and we got to see a lot of Hartland graduates who were in it, like Jackson and Hugh and Daniel and Sebastian, everyone, and it was just really cool and a lot of fun. And so last month I did a 8th grade report, so now I'm doing a 7th grade report. So the like a couple ongoing projects, we're doing like actually the last day was today. It was like a paper like tower project, so you had to get a can of beans to balance on a paper tower as high as you could get it, and there was like a formula to like how many points you would get. So we've been doing that, and everyone's been having so much fun because you just get to like build and talking about like strengths and how different shapes will like provide, like triangles are really good for, you know, this, and trusses and all that. And we also did that last year, and it's just so much fun because it's a, you know, hands-on active way of learning. So I sent out another survey and asked 3 questions, and so again I just thought, you know, what went the best, and lots of people said Thanksgiving, like lunch with a loved one, Thanksgiving break, all of the stuff that comes with it, and just lots of different things about lots of different classes. I didn't specifically count, but there's just like tons of different, like this project was really fun, or this, you know, day was really fun. So just thought I'd put all of that in. What happened in November that you wish could happen again? I said in December, just as kind of like a thing, like a line, but just kind of in general. So people love the field trips, which I could really see, because everyone was on, like, it just seemed like everyone kind of enjoying themselves. And then Gim Kit, which is like a game, like a video game, but we use it, like you answer questions, and it can be like anything. So like Miss Fusco will do like geography questions, Mr. Martin will do science questions, we do like math questions. So it's like a fun way to learn. So a lot of people like that. And one word to describe November, there were like 4 top ones. So I put Thanksgiving, fun, happy, and interesting, which I think would sum it up pretty well. There were a lot of people said fun and happy and Thanksgiving, and then interesting was there was like a couple of people, but I figured might as well put it in there.
Okay. Thank you, Wes.
Thanks.
And there's a number of upcoming events. This Thursday's Coffee with the Principal. Friday this week is a variety show. There is concert on, that's on 11/14. That's 12/14. That's my typo. For grades 4 through 8. There we go.
Trombone, here it comes.
Yay! We have the holiday market, which hopefully, fingers crossed, this year will not get canceled due to yucky, icky weather like it did last year. Is the 16th. Winter break. And then we've got winter activities starting, not the Wednesday, so we come back on the Tuesday. It's not that Wednesday, the day after, but the following, starting on the 10th, is the
As
beginning of
long as
winter
there's still
activities.
snow.
I know. That's the hope.
Do you have the numbers for the winter activities, of like what people have signed up for?
Olinda's still compiling,
Oh, okay.
there's still some, but if you want, for next month, we'll definitely have them nailed down. Do you want me to
I
bring
just
them?
wanted to, I'm always curious about it.
And were we able to resolve the issue with ski runners?
Yeah,
Passes.
John Leonard was able to help us.
Great.
Yeah.
All signed up, ready to go.
Sorry, is there a K through 4 concert that I already missed?
Not right now. I did ask that. No, it hasn't
It would be
happened
K
yet.
through
Okay.
3.
Yep.
K through 3, okay.
Yep, this one is
Okay.
just 4 through 8, but
Okay.
there, at some point there will be one.
Okay.
For the younger students. It may not necessarily be December,
Can't
It's
wait.
fine.
but it'll happen.
As long as it didn't.
You didn't miss it.
It is that time of the year.
Like you missed parent teacher conference.
Yeah.
Nice work, Hannah.
Times are busy, right? My report is linked, and I pulled out a few highlights, so some of you have seen some of this already, but it's really good information to share with the whole board. The question of the month, oh, you got it, sorry.
Yep, got it.
Hold on. The question of the month for November was similar to October, but I had messed up the wording in October, so got it straight in November, and the question was asked which method of accessing your child's progress you prefer. That was last month. This month we're asking what method you currently use the most, and as you can see, most parents prefer and use written communication from staff, so
That's so.
email. Isn't that interesting?
Well, it's so hard for
Teachers.
teachers.
Yeah.
Like what a,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say burden. What a burden to put on teachers for that. Like, I mean, but I didn't participate in this question for some reason. I might have missed it.
That's okay.
I've been working on
I mean, some people, a quarter of the people are using the PowerSchool web application. Some are using the mobile app. Really, people are not relying on the report card or,
But there's also, it's like, it's different it's like different
is.
information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think I can look at PowerSchool and say, what's missing, what are my kids' homeworks missing, what are they, like generally what their grade is or whatever, but then to actually know what
The narrative.
they're struggling, like
Yeah.
you need that communication with the teacher. Otherwise, it's
You
just
do.
numbers.
right.
And I will say too, I actually think I didn't answer this because I feel like with just a first grader, I think it's a little bit irrelevant.
Yeah.
So for what that's
I agree.
worth.
Yeah, and there were comments. If you go to the next slide. This was how often are you accessing PowerSchool to find information about your child's academic progress. So there's a sliver
That's pretty
that are
good,
accessing
though.
it daily.
Mhm.
Yep. Once or twice a week is the red, which is about 35%. Once or twice a month. Yellow, only at parent-teacher conference time was the green, and the purple was never, so we still have some people that are not accessing PowerSchool, and some of the comments were from people, they did not know what PowerSchool was. There were multiple comments about parents relying on Class Dojo for that
Yep.
back and forth with the teacher. And there were comments that teachers are inconsistent in how PowerSchool is used, which is appropriate based on your grade level, but I think across grade levels.
So do
too,
the
there's
younger teachers use Class Dojo?
Oh yeah, we
Yes.
we are
Mhm.
fully into the dojo.
Yeah, it's
in grades
instant,
1 and 4.
like,
Mm-hmm.
instant information.
Pictures.
Parents, yeah,
Lots of
pictures, yeah.
And but like for PowerSchool, like I think I asked this last time and I've forgotten the answer, but like when should parents actually start be like engaging with PowerSchool?
At
Like
what
which
grade
grade?
level?
Yeah, what grade level?
I would say.
Cause I feel like that's something that like,
But that's where your child's report card's going to be.
Yeah.
yeah, but like, so like, now, when do I engage, like, but is my fourth grader getting a report card? Is my first grader getting a report card?
We don't issue report cards because we're
Yeah.
a standards-based system, so you
Yeah.
can go at any time and see how your child is
Yeah.
doing. But they're never printed. I mean, teachers
Yeah.
are reporting at the end of the trimester essentially on where kids are at. But, I mean, in theory, in a standards-based system, a student could be working on one standard all year long.
Yes.
Right? So you're just getting checks along the way of how they're doing. And you're not gonna get feedback on every standard every trimester, right? So,
But so I should be looking.
I mean, you can log in, you could ask your children how they're doing.
Okay.
I don't think you should feel
I
pressured
just-
to go on every day.
I just wait. I'm maybe
Yeah.
a lazy parent, just wait.
I mean, if your child starts to struggle, you're gonna hear from the school,
Yeah.
you're gonna hear from the teachers, yeah. Oh, Stacy said,
I think she wrote something previous as well. So if you could
let me, go to the chat here, hold on.
was basically like, about Power School, when I asked.
I would read these results as 51 prefer to use Power School, whether that is web or mobile version.
I don't know about.
Which actually means most respondents do not prefer written communication from the teacher. So it's good information for us, and, you know, we know that we used to do like parent information nights on how to show them how to
Yeah.
get onto Power School and log in. We haven't done those in a bit, so
Maybe we should do that.
I think
I
we
think-
probably need to.
I think I struggle more with like what does a two mean? And then when you say, well, it's standards based, I look and I say, okay, well, I don't know, like they may say, oh, this assignment didn't get passed in, or you got a 1 on this assignment. Well, is the assignment 1, or are you saying the standard that they worked on for that assignment is a 1 right now? And it was, so it's more like trying to understand what that number
How-
represents. That's my confusion at
Maybe
least.
maybe it's time for a night.
Yeah.
Let's do
I
dinner
don't know.
tonight.
Would it be possible to put together like a like guide to, I mean,
Yeah,
does that exist?
yeah.
Like, just
Probably
maybe
out
with
there
some
already,
of
yeah.
those like frequently asked questions, including some just logistics practical, here's how you log on, here's the number to call if you're struggling, here's, you know, but then also like, how should what does
What
this
does it mean?
mean?
Yeah, I think that Alina and I were just saying, we have an upcoming event that we're in the works of still planning, primarily target at younger grades.
Uh-huh.
Can't read a lot, thinking about tying it in to
Can't
that
read
as a
a
part of
Great idea.
what we wanna do.
Wait, no one talked about the Stars Night. What happened with the Stars Night? I didn't get to go.
There were stars, it was wonderful, there was a really nice turnout. We had some volunteers come up and help some people, like use telescopes to see stuff, it was wonderful.
Why was that not in your report?
It should have been, it should have been,
There's
I
too
know.
much
Are you
Too
going to
many
do,
good
are you going to
things.
do another one of
There
those?
was gonna be a time for feedback later.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I just get really,
Oh,
get really excited.
The next question of the month for December, just so you know, it was in the newsletter Friday, it'll be in again. Since all the boards are working on community engagement as a goal, we're asking the community what types, what school their child attends, what grade level. Have you attended any community family events this year, and what kind of community events would you like to see in the future? Because, yeah, well, because some events we get no participation, and some events we get a decent amount, so.
Yeah, I think a YouTube tutorial sent like with every single like end of the week thing of like, this is how you use Power School. Like, will people really leave their homes in the middle of winter to do that?
No,
I
but I
barely
think
did.
those already exist actually.
Yeah,
Just
really.
bringing that, Ryan did those,
Ryan?
yeah,
Yeah.
tutorials, yeah,
Webinar.
yeah.
But something
let's
as a
do
part of an
Zoom.
event that we're already doing,
Sure.
we
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
already have some buy-in there.
Okay, I'm gonna conclude there because I know that there's a
I
lengthy
have a
budget
question
discussion.
about the survey questions.
Sure.
Are you getting any feedback on
On
answering the questions, like if people?
People are pretty
Notice it.
responsive.
Yeah.
I know there were some,
Has anybody
another
mentioned
board,
it?
really appreciates that level of, community, feedback and engagement and talked about doing their own school level. questions of the month, so I think it's a great start. I try to report out the results in my newsletters for parents to look at as well, just to see, and, you know, what we learn from the questions, try to make improvements to what we're doing. So, it seems that people appreciate the very, it's quick, it doesn't take a lot of time to fill it out, and it's a way to provide some insights on particular topics.
I mean,
Yeah.
if people are answering that, that's that.
I'm really loving both of the amount of newsletters and stuff. Like, I love the supervisory one that you get, and I love, like, it's just nice to read. I make sure I read them all, and like, I think there's so much information in there that is great, because I don't think people's children bring stuff home to tell them when stuff is, so it's nice that it's like there every week. So thank you for keeping doing
Yeah, I'm
this.
trying to keep them, people are busy, and
but-
it's hard to read a lot, so we're trying to keep them
It's
visual
great.
and snippets. People seem to appreciate that, so, thank you. All right, Lindsay,
All right.
you are on, Ed is here, he's frantically still working.
There we go.
Trying to
Do you,
figure it out.
do you each want one of these? The
Sure.
two,
In front of
there's
our
that
faces.
version, yeah, and then take.
As
So
you know,
this,
it's a complicated
these are,
process.
there should be one of each for both of you.
Okay.
Version 1 and version 2, which I did email to you all the end of last week to take a look at.
Tell me your
I made
first
10 copies
experience
of
of
each,
looking at
which
all
I
these
think
numbers
should be
together.
okay.
What does this mean?
Yeah, I'm already,
What is
yeah, I don't know if I can count it
this? I don't think any of us can.
Don't try
I guess you might get it better than we do. Okay.
One version.
That's it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Before we get into it, there've been some changes, I don't know if you're keeping up with, the news.
This is
on-
not for the best.
On school,
Really crushing
school
it.
budgets and future
Crushing.
of, funding in Vermont, but, just the most simple way I can put it, and Ed is here to explain the very complicated details if need be. If your budget from FY '24 to FY '25 stays under a 10% increase, and that is a per pupil cost increase, which is pretty much the budget overall, essentially it's the budget, but, because their weighting formula has changed, that does impact. So if you keep the budget, under a 10% increase, your tax rate will be capped at 5%. So if your tax rate might come in under that, it might come in over that, but you're capped at 5%. If your budget goes over the 10% increase, and this is after it's all passed in your community, you will have to defend that budget in front of a committee, which will be made up of 3 superintendents and 3 business managers. We don't know if they're the same committee for everybody or different groups. You will have to defend why your increase is what it is. They will make a recommendation to the secretary, who gets to say it's accepted.
And this is after townspeople have voted
Yes,
on it.
Yes.
That's very odd.
So if you justify the increases, and the answer is okay, yes, you're still capped at 5%. If the answer is no, you lose the cap for the next 5 years, because the cap is in place for 5 years.
So the cap is placed by the Secretary of State, is that?
It's by the legislature,
Okay.
legislatures, yeah, it's by.
And so this only goes to this committee if the budget increases by greater than 10%?
Yep.
So it's incentivizing keeping the budget?
It is.
Okay.
It is, in a time where we know, kids have needs, and so we wanna support ultimately we wanna support our students, but we also wanna be fiscally responsible. So look at things in different ways if we can. So with that,
Whose rule is
as a-
this?
whose rule is it?
Yeah.
The
Vermont.
state's.
Their
In
idea.
practice, it's gonna be difficult.
Their-
When did it pass?
Yeah.
I think in the last session, right?
and
The
it's just
long-term
to be-
weighted formula has been created the last couple of years, its implementation is this year.
So what's happened is there are schools that threaten to file a suit, much like what got Act 60 passed back in the late 90s. But what their point was that schools that had higher needs weren't getting the funding they needed. I think Winooski was the example, because they had a very, very diverse population.
A high ELL population.
Yeah, and they said that their cost per pupil wasn't, it was much higher. So what the state did to rectify that is they decided to take a look at how they came up with equalized pupil, which is part of the funding formula for a very long time, but it was based on certain weights. Weights were for ELL students or for your poverty rate.
So instead of one point for a student, full-time student, like an ELL student would be worth 3.
That was a part of
Yeah.
Act 60. It had centralized funding,
See, Act 60 is, as we've gone along in the years,
Yeah.
they've seen problems and they've
Modified.
modified.
Okay, but so at this point, what it is still centralized funding with then distribution based on weighted.
Right,
Yes.
based on not your
Values
student
per
count in the
pupil.
building. So if you look at your count here and you look at your equalized pupil,
It's
there's
not the
really
same.
no correlation.
Right, got it, okay. And so schools have been threatening then, in a similar way of saying we're
I
not
don't know if it's
being-
threatening, but
or-
they've been approaching the state and
saying
saying
we're
over
not
and over
being
and over again.
sufficiently funded.
We're not sufficiently funded because of,
The previous.
And so they're
weighted
saying
plan.
we're gonna increase our budget 20%, and then the state has responded by saying, well, if you do that, we will increase the tax rate in your town, income tax rate in your town, to account for this increase that you're going to.
right.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, they're trying to put some restraints, controls on.
Got it, by creating some taxpayer
Yeah, and
buy-in
it
or
could,
ownership
I mean,
or-
if you stay under the 10% and you're
Yeah.
capped at 5%, you may be, getting a lot more money from the state instead of raising, right?
Do you understand what that means? You could spend up to 10%,
Right, like,
but your
we're,
tax rate
yeah,
is, even if you spend 10%
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
your tax rate will not
Right,
exceed 5%.
Right.
Like that
So we should
sounds
spend
well.
10%.
so accounting for some degree of like inflation and cost increase without redistributing that cost directly to the town.
Yes.
Okay.
And, I mean,
What do they call it? They call it I forget the term they used, but they used a certain term, but essentially what you just said is really the result.
Okay,
so, on that
so
note-
that is maybe a goal, is to keep the budget
So
going up beyond 10%.
So that's the question, is
Relative to 23.
the two versions that you're gonna see here, neither of which are below 10%.
Neither of which are below 10%.
Yes.
Okay.
But they include everything.
They
So.
do include, so in the first version, it does have the 2 classroom teachers that are currently ESSER funded within it. It has as a 1.0 instructional coach position, and the playground cost is included in local funds. So in both of these versions, the playground that we're proposing is not taken out of capital reserve. Version 2 is a 1.0 classroom teacher positions that are included that are currently ESSER funded. 1.0 instructional coach that's currently title funded, and the playground is also included in the local funds in that one, version 1 and 2.
So the only difference between version 1 and version 2 is one classroom
Mhm.
teacher.
Yep.
Okay.
So the question is, I guess, would the board like Ed and I to go back and propose a budget to you that's under 10%?
And if we said yes to one of these and just said, okay, we're just gonna bring this to the town, 15% increase, there still is the possibility that that doesn't translate into an increased tax rate if this committee approves it.
Justifies.
Correct, and it will
We
also
don't lose the
depend,
cap.
you will, if you're over the cap and they agree, you will not lose the cap.
So there still is a
Yeah.
protection in place to
Yeah.
justify this.
Yes.
But this is a whole new system and we have no way to predict how that committee will behave,
And we don't
really.
even know who the secretary's gonna be, because we
Got
have
it.
an interim at the moment.
I see it,
Yeah.
okay.
There's a lot of variables.
And the likelihood that people voting on this understand this dynamic is probably low, because you'd have to be pretty tuned into state politics and education funding to know that this might happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I mean, or we find a simple way to explain it, so that all community members can understand and grasp it, but I think the goal would be to stay under the 10%. Unless you really feel strongly about,
Well, and even with version, like, like version 2 is still keeping us within the ratios we need to be and keeping us at the educational quality standards that we
Oh,
need to
Yeah.
be staying at.
But it does have your playground in it, which is a hefty,
Yep.
hefty
Which is a good
cost,
Right.
so I don't
But
know.
that's with we're not using any capital reserve.
Correct.
And we said that, there's a possibility that that might be something we might wanna look into, is to like use some capital reserve for this. And some major fundraising, where's the PTO?
Yep. And you can do a phase, I mean, I think the
Mhm.
presenter said you could phase one, year
Mhm.
one,
Yep.
spend this much money, phase two, the following year.
sorry, where is the playground on this, right now, on the budget?
How much is the playground?
It's a
Right
lot.
about 250,000.
And where does it show up on this budget?
I'm looking for
It's 310 equipment,
equipment.
so
Yeah.
that's the playground plus any other equipment in there? Just the playground.
Yeah, there's
Just
some.
small stuff.
I see
Equipment's in the bottom box.
Oh,
Is
Yeah,
that the lockers?
location-wide.
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
lockers are in
lockers.
there?
Yep.
It's,
Am I
Which one is
looking
it?
at, sorry, mine,
in
oh, I see, I
location-wide.
see, it's not,
It's in
so it's
location-wide.
in 25, it's in the
Yeah.
fiscal year
Yes.
25 budget?
Yep.
Not 24, right? 'Cause
Yes.
it'll be passed, got it, okay. I see it now, sorry, I was in the wrong year,
And
okay.
that's the playground and the lockers for the lower
Lockers.
level kids and anything else?
yeah, I'll show it.
But I mean, that's only gonna get you down, I mean, just doing rough math, that's only you get down to still a 13% increase, even if you got rid of all equipment costs, right? Or a 12% increase,
Elementary lockers.
so.
Yeah, what does,
Fast
so, yeah, I was gonna say, so what's the decrease that we're looking at?
Well,
to
no,
get
it's not,
to
because
10%?
it's the dollar increase on version 2 is
Percent.
1.5 million, and the percent increase is 15. So if you subtract 300,000 from that, it's 1.2 million, which would be like a 12% increase, so
If
you
you
still
look-
are above.
If you look at the bottom, the over-under cap,
Mm-hmm,
you'll have to reduce this budget by
Oh, okay.
$554,000.
right.
$4 to get to under 10%.
So that's a lot more than just the playground, right?
Yeah, a
It's
couple
more,
hundred
yeah,
thousand,
it's
yeah.
more than just the playground.
I mean, there's never that much room in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's staffing. It just, I mean, that's what it is.
And we have to pay people.
We do have to pay people.
Have
Yeah.
to pay people.
To
We have
teach the
have
kids.
people.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry.
need them.
Sorry, we're mumbling over
Yeah.
here, just saying that seems, that's not negotiable, right, staffing
No.
appropriately, and so seems like, I mean, so just in my mind, it's almost like if you're gonna have to make this, if you're gonna have to advocate for this to the town, regardless of what you do with the playground, you're probably stuck still above the 10% cap, right?
Unless we.
But the
Unless
question is,
there's
does the
version 3, which
playground
is, like, just
risk
cut.
the refusal by the
Slash,
committee?
yeah, slash and burn, version 3. Version 3. Slash and burn.
So it's probably, I mean, just.
Your extras are over here.
It's probably, I mean, if you've got
There's 2 versions.
2 ESER positions, you're probably looking at none of those carrying
Make sure you
forward.
read the tops.
And that coach,
And the coach.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically eliminating all 3.
How much money is in the capital reserve?
343,609.
Okay. And do we ever reach out to the playground people to talk about like possible fundraisers?
They've sent me some.
Okay.
There's one, VOREC, there's the grant that they think it might be worth applying to, I'm in the process of, but I've also reached out to the grant people through the state as well, and I'm happy to apply. I
Yeah.
don't know how successful it will be, but I think it is worth the application.
Okay.
I mean, just Couch and Hope Foundation.
Yeah, Couch, Hope, some other
Yeah.
foundations that are out
How
there.
do 300,000?
And
No, but if you
lockers
could-
too. I'm wondering like how we can take, that, cause that's the easiest number to like slash and burn, I guess, but
The non-people numbers.
yeah, it's the non-people numbers, and like how we can get that to like between capital reserve or other things,
So no,
make
but we're
that-
calling, we're not even halfway there if we just completely remove the
Right.
That is
playground
true.
and lockers.
Right.
That is true.
What
That's in
other-
but that's only in version 1. In version 2, it gets us much closer.
I'm just wondering too though about these categories
It's
where there's a surplus between the fiscal year 23 budget and actual expenditure, acknowledging we still have a month to go in the year, but like, you know, this is not a big gain, but like travel, for example, there were like 12,000 budgeted and we've spent under 2,000 so far. So I guess 5,000 just seems like a reasonable then halfway point to budget for, but are there things like that where not as much needs to be budgeted?
But like, look at the energy. Energy went from 101 up to 135. Like,
Mhm.
that's like $34,000 that just got eaten that way. So, same with dues and fees.
Mhm.
So,
So before you go too far,
don't go
Okay.
down the rabbit hole. Don't
and
go down
there, there is a surplus from that 23 actuals, right? Of about, I think it was like under 200, is it 232,364.
Mhm.
Can you apply that to this?
Yeah,
So, there's 230.
234.
Okay, so we're just gonna say 230 for right now. So we take 230, that brings that number down, the 554. And then try to fit, like, because then in a way that doing something with lockers and playground and then throwing a little capital reserve, like we could do it.
Yeah. Like you could make the playground like capital reserve plus fundraising.
But it's
Plus-
also, I'll just put a reminder in here, we can also put that surplus into capital reserve.
Yep.
So
Mm.
if we don't, I mean, all we have in there right now is 300 something in capital reserve.
Yep.
So
340,
we just
right.
need to be really cognizant of like, we haven't fed capital reserve for a while. And like, is this the year that we need to feed it? Is this one more like, I don't know, I just
I don't think
put
we're
it out
ever
there
gonna- I don't
of
think
like,
we're gonna ever feed it
then,
again.
I mean, but this, then we won't have a playground, like,
Well, you
and
have
like
to
when
do
we
that.
had a big project like this, then we won't have the funds there to do the playground, so like, it's that. that
I'm
looking
worried
a little
about
bit to the
feeding it in
future.
this year where there's this new
Exactly, like that's, I'm just
dynamic
putting it
at
out
play
there.
that like as we, because I presume by this time next year, everybody will have a lot more experience of this whole
Yeah.
process,
Or it changes.
or it changes
Yeah.
again.
Never know.
But you said
The only
if,
constant, I guess,
if we
right?
make the under 10%, it's good for 5 years. Like we've
You
been,
have to make it every year.
oh, you have to make it every year. Oh, okay.
You have to
In
stay
my,
under 10
So they're
every year.
promising to keep this somewhat level for those years, even though if you.
Yeah, but also think about, so they're calling it the, the financial cliff in year 6.
Yeah.
You're actually gonna have to pay all the tax that you've kind of not paid, if, I'm not explaining it very good.
So if you're maintained under 5% tax, it's gonna still go up in year 6?
It's in year 6, it's gonna go up to what you actually should be paying, yes, so the
Oh.
state's kicking
there's
in,
gonna
right,
be
the
a
state's
great
compensating, yeah.
Jump?
For-
Unless it changes, which is,
Yeah, no one has a
I
problem.
don't even understand. I don't even wanna understand. Somebody draw me a
Two
map
questions.
later.
The capital reserve, I know the history of the capital reserve because I helped design it. Capital reserve was so the school had money to do projects and not borrow money and the taxpayers paid interest. I would be uncomfortable for that to go towards the budget money, towards the budget. It's there to help the school so they don't have to borrow money to do projects. The heating system goes down, the driveway blows up or something like that. That's what that capital reserve was intended for, because the school used to borrow money to do projects. So we designed the reserve so the school didn't have to borrow money. All they had to do was go to the board and say, hey, we need a new classroom because of this reason, and we had the money. So that was the thought behind that. So me personally, I'd be against using it against budget. It's for that. And is the playground in the budget?
Yeah, so
Yes,
that
it's
was the
the-
thought of the potential of using the capital reserve is
Is to you go towards the
Potential.
budget.
Where's the playground?
location wide.
Oh, right there,
Yes,
okay.
that-
Yep.
Oh, that's at 310,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
So it's currently right now built into both of these versions of the budget, but I think the question on the table is, does the board wanna consider using capital reserves or going to the taxpayers
Towards
for a new
Okay.
playground?
Towards the
Alright.
playground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my question was more like, do we take our surplus and put it into the capital
I
reserve?
think that makes sense.
Or do we put the surplus and put it toward the budget for next year?
so we don't.
It's kind of either,
Yeah.
it kind of does the same thing if you're, I suppose.
I mean, if we're just putting it toward the budget for next year, then it's just going directly to pay it, so we can get down to that 10%.
I think it's gonna happen.
Put it in the capital budget.
But I also don't think,
But if you put it
I don't think
there,
we're
then
gonna,
you need it.
I don't think we should be emptying our
But
capital
we could
reserve.
use the capital reserve for
You know,
the
like, I think we
playground.
should look at what pieces we can propose.
Right, cause the
for it.
playground is really like a planned,
It's not a project, it's not an emergency.
it's not an emergency, right, it's a project, but it's not a
Unexpected.
sort of crisis that you would have to borrow for.
Makes
Except
it be
that playground
multi-year.
is
Start
start
small.
But I still don't think if you get rid, like, I still am just back to this point that, like, even if you take the playground out of this, we still are going to be a town that is landing about 10%. And is there any way other than cutting staffing to keep the budget under 10%? Is the question.
Staffing is probably what, about 80% of our budget
Yeah.
in general? So
Right,
that's
so it's very
large
hard.
majority of it.
Yeah.
Would be very challenging, but.
And Ed is still working the weights, I mean, we just got the information this evening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think that what the board needs to direct us to do is stay under the 10%, and we come back and bring you what that looks
Do
like.
version
As well as
3.
you can.
Yeah, version
under
3.
10%.
Cut
I do worry it's gonna be a tough year just with sort of like national politics. There's just so much, there's gonna be so much fraught, emotion about, well, that's what I mean, is at the time where it's passing, right? I mean, I just think people are, there's gonna be a lot
One
of
of the things that we're
financial anxieties.
trying to figure out is, when you look at these two versions and you look at the over-under, and I'm saying version 1, you're
Yep.
over 644,
Yeah.
and the other one is 554.
Yeah.
It's the calculation as to far as what constitutes the 10%. You know,
Yeah,
how
how
do
are
they
you
come up with
calculating
it?
that 10%?
And the reason I say that is because they're using numbers, last year they didn't have this new weighted average,
Mhm.
okay? So they've created an estimated one. Now, in order to do the comparison they're talking about it, you'd have to use that number. Now, I don't know whether they're gonna live by that number, because they've just came out with this year's number. So-
Weighted per student number, you
Right,
mean?
so
Interesting.
when I'm showing you the 644 and the 554, those numbers could change depending on how all of this shakes out as, what's happening is legislature passed this and now everyone's trying to figure out how to implement it. And we're implementing as we go. Because, of course, when they come out with these numbers, half the business managers in the state have questions and say, well, wait a minute, did we do this, did we do that? And 2/3 of them are, the DOE, the Department of Education says, oh, yeah, oh, well, we didn't really think of, you know what I mean? So they have to go back and make some adjustments, so it's gonna be, we're gonna keep going, we're gonna kind of be till the 11th hour on this. So these numbers that I'm giving you tonight are the, right now, the best we can come up with.
Yeah, they could change
They
that.
would change it.
Right.
Where's the number adjusted then? Like you're using a weighted average
That they
where?
give me.
And where?
They give that number to me.
The state
So
gives you the weighted
They,
average.
they use a thinking called the average daily membership, which is,
Right, but where is it in the budget? Like if you do a math.
Where is it represented in the budget?
And represented here on the sheet, like.
on here,
You don't
Yeah.
have the per pupil cost yet,
No.
that's gonna give you the per
this is
pupil
just the
cost, yeah.
expenditure budget.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not on here.
No, no.
I see what you're saying. So because this still is school-wide increase, and what they're actually gonna look at is pupil,
Yeah, but it's, you
per
could do,
pupil increase,
pupil
which
cost.
could be
Yeah.
different depending on
On
your
the
denominator, and
weights.
your
Yes.
denominator is gonna depend on this weighted average, and we don't really
Yes.
know.
right.
Okay.
You got
Way
it.
to go.
Because you're
Yeah.
gonna take this number and like divide it by
Is that
You
pupil.
know,
good or
yes.
Yes.
It just means we don't know, because
Right.
if you end up, if they end
Yeah,
up
if the denominator
weighting,
keeps changing, then there's
if
no.
they weight our school
Right,
population
but they
high,
have to compare that number you just talked
right,
about
to
to
something
this
last-
year's number.
right,
But they,
but they've changed the weighting
But this year's
system.
number is also different, yeah, so.
Right,
they-
and we have no
have-
way to predict because
Equalize
of what you
people.
just
You're
said, that
comparing
this
two
like
different
weighted
things.
value is not in any way related
kinda
to the number of
inflex.
kids in this building.
And then there's other things that impact your tax rate too, that is
So, I mean-
appraisal, right?
yeah,
Feels like you just
there's
make a
all
budget,
kinds of,
and
there's
this
the,
time it's
there's the
10%.
property yield, there's the income yield, all of that stuff, so the property yield, well, I don't wanna
It's
get too
very
complicated.
Yeah, you'd have
But
to go to
Martin has a
even.
question too.
It stays relatively within a range. Well, the one they just gave us is $5,000 less than the one that we had last year.
How can you do that? Meaning it's gonna cost us $5,000 less per
No,
child
I'm
right
just
now?
saying that
To
the
educate?
numbers,
Per
they're
child?
skewed them.
Right.
Now, this is the property yield and the income yield that they developed to smooth out
Yeah.
Act 60. So now they've got these two numbers and they've, like I said, they've been
Just changed that.
relatively even as we've gone along. But now, the Department of Taxation sent out these new numbers and
So
you
it's
do a comparison.
screwy and they're gonna do something to fix it,
Yeah.
and we don't know what that is.
Right, and we won't know.
And the thing about those
However
numbers
much
is,
that
that's the recommendation by the Department of Taxation, right? They send out a recommendation, then the legislature looks at the number. And in that same letter, they were talking about an 18% increase in property taxes across statewide,
Which is an
based on
average.
the numbers that,
Uh-huh.
the preliminary budget information they got.
So, I mean, it seems to me that we are up against a set of variables which are currently unknown, which are gonna be multiplied by factors which are currently unknown, right? And so, like,
Oh, she's
so, like, trying to play into that game is almost a like, it's a futile endeavor to some degree, right? And so,
At this point.
what we should probably do is like in our sort of like, you know, best faith effort, create a budget that seems appropriate to meet the needs of the kids of this building, right? And that is likely to be agreeable to the taxpayers.
and under 10%.
But I don't think we can target that because we don't even know where that's gonna be on the bullseye right now, right? There's so many moving pieces that it seems like trying to meet that like highly movable
Yeah.
target
But
is really.
you're gonna have to make a decision by the time
Yeah.
of
Right.
January.
Clock's
Right, and so that's my
ticking.
point, is that it
Yeah.
feels like what we should really be, to me, the question is, how will taxpayers in the climate of, you know, March 24 feel if we say we'd like to put in a $250,000 playground? Right, I think we can easily justify the teachers and I worry a little bit about that piece, that with the sort of financial anxieties that exist right now, that people may find that to be a big, especially with these sort of insecurities about potential vulnerabilities with this new system.
Can we,
But I don't think we should be, I mean, I think we should pick teaching positions based on what we feel is the most appropriate thing for the school. And if that turns out to be $100,000 extra somewhere, we don't even know if that's gonna put us above or below.
what position got removed for version 1?
Version 1 is the
Version
two,
2?
is one of the ESSER, what is currently an ESSER funded classroom teacher position.
There's an additional classroom teacher in version 1. There's 2 instead
Yep.
of 1 because we don't know yet if that's gonna be.
But is it a position we need? ESER position?
They're currently all classroom teacher
It
positions.
has to.
I think there are some ways that Ed
Here's
and
what I
could-
think.
Yep.
We should try to get a third budget that's at 10%.
Under
I'm
10%,
gonna say
it's gotta be
below
under 9.9.
10%.
Yeah, 9.99.
How many decimals?
9.99.
So what's the 10%? Get you under the cap?
Yes.
Makes the state happy.
It protects you from the tax increase this year, delays your tax increase for 5 years.
Keeps your tax increase at 5%.
I don't even know.
Okay, so
I'm just
staying
saying
we don't
that's the
become a gold
target.
town.
Then we have 3
Doesn't,
versions.
Old Town and all that's out the window.
Oh, that's out the window now?
Yeah, that's no longer that's no longer a
And
fact.
then can we approve it like an if then? Like, we don't know what's coming. If it's this,
So-
we do this. If
We'll
it's
know,
that,
I mean, I think
we do that.
in the next week, or not even,
As we
Oh,
sort
okay.
through all this.
at the very
In
outset,
that case,
we'll start
I know.
getting some of these numbers,
Yeah.
Let's
and
look
we'll
at
have a
next
better idea.
Yeah, I kind of think that.
When do we?
And I think be prepared to take the playground down, maybe just down, staged, just for
How
optics.
bad do we need what's the locker price?
36,000.
Okay, there's just like a little part of me that like feels like if
Where are
Well,
lockers
See,
going?
that's where I would use your capital reserve for the lockers.
oh, 'cause
Because
they
that's what
need
the
to be
capital reserve is
replaced.
designed for, something like that. Doesn't cost the school, the taxpayers money, because they've already put the money in.
Yep.
And it reduces your budget by $36,000.
But how about the playground?
Why not the
Playground, man, the playground is
Yeah.
so bad.
So, it sounds like we have, Martin, did you have another question?
No,
Or are you all set?
thank you.
It sounds like our movement going forward is to see what that budget looks like if it's under the current 10%. And then see what we can go from there.
I think we
My
might,
question,
oh, sorry.
my question is, what is the timetable we have here? Because I'm feeling like a little
March.
like,
Well, we gotta have the warning
No,
out.
yeah, the warning has to be out
Yeah,
by early
February.
February.
Yeah, early February.
So-
March 5th is
Yeah.
the voting.
30 days before.
so it's
Yeah,
right to feel,
up to 45 ahead, that's correct.
So,
February. It's gotta be,
It's
when's
drop
your
dead
February
date.
Do we-
meeting?
Last year
February
we approved
5th.
it was the end of January, I think we approved it, wasn't it?
So
Mid
you've
to
got
late
January, and then February, your meeting is the 6th.
It's too late.
That's gonna be too late. You might have to add an additional meeting
In
in
January.
January, at the end of January.
End of
Can't wait.
January.
Come in and be what?
We have to get the CLA.
Yep.
Right? And we also have to get, a final number on, tech FTEs and a couple of other numbers that the state provides. And normally in the last 3 years, it's kind of gone crazy,
I'll
but,
ask Stacy tomorrow if she has the CLA yet, and let you know.
okay. I would know because they send a letter to you guys,
me?
the board chairs,
The
remember?
board chairs will
Yeah.
get it. I haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
so.
I'm just a stand-in.
Nothing.
I get nothing. Okay, so I think I just had another question and it flew out of my head.
I think it sounds like we'll know more at the next meeting, and it might be nice to see one more budget that targets this.
Yeah, I think what
Yep.
we wanted for tonight was just guidance from the board, given what
Oh.
we know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you wanna proceed?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want us to come with a version 3 that is under 10%? Then maybe hopefully having by the beginning of January, Ed and I would have more.
Yeah, and
Answers of
hopefully
the
you
other
know more
surplus
about what
for
that
you.
10%.
How about
Yeah.
the surplus though, like can we
The
wiggle
surplus
in?
is $232,000.
Okay, so like, can we wiggle that in to like what that could do, plus if like we took the number down for playground/lockers by like $100,000 or $150,000, like what?
Yeah, I think it's,
I feel like version 3's gotta sort of.
yeah, it's got like version 3,
3 and
4.5,
3.1.
like I feel like there's
Sounds
a
like you need
couple.
three and a
Couple,
half.
because it makes me
Yeah.
think of
A
like,
few-
yes, throw in the surplus
Because,
in,
like-
what does it look like? Okay,
Yep.
take this part of the
Yeah.
playground out, what does it look like?
And same like with like
what are we
version
sacrificing?
2, like,
So one of the things about the surplus in the prior years, what you've used the surplus to do, so you start with an $11 million budget, or $11,500,000, your budget. Before you put it into the funding formula, you take out local revenue. And what your local revenue has been over the last few years has been the surplus from the prior years. And this year, you use $441,000 of that surplus to buy down the tax rate. Okay?
yes.
So
we did
what
that.
we're talking about is expenditures now. We're not even talking about tax rate yet,
Okay.
okay? So you get your budget, if you don't use the 223, or the 232
Yeah.
to buy down the tax rate, your tax rate's going to be higher. And then you're gonna be faced with not just the 10% on the budget, but you're gonna be faced with, does this tax rate look like it will pass? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just so you know that, yes, you could take the 232 and put it into capital reserve and use that as an offset for whatever you're gonna ask the voters for. So it would be, we're gonna spend 250, but we're putting 232 in, but
Tax
the
rate.
tax rate would go up.
Would go up then. So yeah, what's less painful for the public?
The tax
The
rate.
tax
The
rate.
tax rate.
Is there any possibility that when we get this number mystery number, that we'll have, any of these numbers will go down? Any of these budget numbers will go down?
Possibly.
Yeah, if the weighted average was
Possibly.
high, right, if the weighted value
Per
per
pupil
pupil was
cost,
high,
What's the
people would
chance?
fill out those.
Let's
Get
get
the
some
eight ball
probability
in.
in
Come on
here.
in.
In this formula, some towns are gonna do well,
well.
and some
Yeah.
towns are not.
Yeah.
And
I
we
don't
just
know
don't
which,
know.
where we land.
But it
Kinda
could go
in the
down.
Or it could go up.
And it's not gonna come from probably ELL as much in
So
this
that was my
building, but
thought
the question is like the getting, you know, the
Behind, that was my thought behind getting a third version, was if we had a lean version, then when we come back together, knowing the number, it's either gone up or down, and then we can make a decision about.
Yeah.
how
I think I
lean
can
we
give
have
you
to
a
be.
better idea of
That'll
what
be
your
the fourth
over-under
version,
is.
which is what we do.
No, in the next week.
So at the next meeting, or
Right.
you could send it out to the board ahead of
Right.
time.
I mean, I can certainly send it back out, so.
Yeah, send it whenever you find out.
I mean, if you wanna get under 10%, you gotta cut $575,000.
Yeah, I don't see us doing that, but I think we need to, I think we need to see that. We need to have that in a piece of paper for our voters. I mean, this is what it would look like if we could do that, but we can't, probably.
well, but they're not gonna vote between choices, right? They're just gonna
You
vote
have to
yes
say
or
yes or
no.
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 Take them one.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
But
just
the-
need to make sure we explain and justify.
There's
gonna have to be
why
a
we're making
message.
The
it.
anecdote
Yeah,
is there.
Yeah. I think a key piece of the message, honestly, is gonna just be like, eventually it's gonna be, we're gonna have to pay it back in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
I think that like will really change people's
Yeah, I'd rather have it even.
perspective on that.
No, what do you mean you gotta pay it back? I was late. I'm
When
sorry.
you, at the end of 5 years, if you've stayed under the 5%, if you've stayed under the 10% increase per
Each-
year, which
each
has
year.
maintained your tax rate under 5%, at the end of 5 years, it will be readjusted to account for the increases.
You'll be paying the full. The state's kicking in. If you stay under 10%, under a 10% increase from FY '24 to FY '25, your per pupil spending, they will cap your tax rate at a 5% increase. And they're gonna have that formula in place for the next 5 years. If you go over 10%, you defend your budget at a hearing after the budget's been approved by
Right.
the town. And that committee's made up of 3 superintendents, 3 business managers. They make a recommendation to the secretary. That person says, okay, those justifications seem reasonable, you can still, have the cap of 5%. If they say no, then you lose the cap for the 5 years. So it is a risk, but, I mean, I think if you're defending your budget and it makes sense for what kids need, I can't imagine a committee
Yeah.
turning it down, but we don't, there are a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, with that.
Having, what Christine just outlined though, what it does is it sets your rate at 5%. Your tax rate will not increase by more than 5%. So you're gonna be asking, if you stay under 10, you're gonna be asking your taxpayers to pay 5% more, which is more in line with what they've been paying. Then, you know, your budget this year is going from, the prior year budget was, in '23, the budget was $9,500,000. And the '24 budget was $9,991,000, and we're looking at the '25 budget's $11,592,000. So you're going up a lot in 1 year. And that's why they've put this in.
Yep. All right. Other, do you guys feel like you have the directive you need?
So Ed and I will come back with multiple
The other,
versions.
I guess the question that I was having, has staff been informed and gotten input on what may need to happen?
I put out there to form a budget committee. I had one teacher express interest, talked another teacher into it today, which is great, so now we have two. So I,
Do they understand what this looks like? Have you guys, at one of your staff meetings, just?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Because it
too
just came
unknown,
out.
like this is
learning
just
about
gonna
it.
put up
I
flares
just
right
feel like
now.
there needs to be like
Yeah.
this moment where,
But they should
But-
know.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we're very quickly approaching that point where we will have to have that conversation,
Yeah.
we just haven't yet.
Because they may have some great ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, you guys and them, you're in it every day. We just come here and get numbers and freak out. So,
All right, is there any more discussion around the budget?
Just one other quick question, tuition is increasing a lot, is that, I just can't remember, we talked about numbers of kids per grade, is that because of increase in kids going to ninth
No.
grade?
We looked at it, it's pretty even.
So it's more related to cost
Yeah, and where
rising,
where
where children are picking to go, okay.
Have we been, what, can you remind me of the rule about school choice at this moment, cause the state had come down with something, and then what was, like, at one point, there was this moment where, like, the district had to choose, like, 5 schools that it could send.
That didn't pass.
Okay, so any kid can go wherever, anywhere they wanna go, and we,
As long as they're on the state approved independent school
Yeah.
or public school, yeah.
and we pay the difference. Are there any towns that say, like, we will pay the average per pupil rate, and, like, if you, like, is it against the rules to say, like, you will pay the average
That's what they do.
that, and
That's what they do
then,
in Cornish, yeah.
what?
That's what they do in the town I live in, yeah.
Okay, so,
But that's New Hampshire, it's
okay,
not Vermont.
but, like, does, are there towns in Vermont? Or just every town coughs up whatever anybody says?
Well, there's not that many
for-
school choice towns anymore in
If you're a school
Vermont,
choice
right?
town. And they'll pay the cost of a public school, they'll pay the state, per student average if it's an independent school.
And your question is there any interest in doing that, let's say, for Hanover, that it would be?
Or just, like, whatever.
I mean, the worry I
do a
have
public
about that
school.
is just the equity of
Yeah.
that it just really, I feel like that's gonna even further.
It's hard, it's really hard to decide that, but in a way, like, if there is a place that a lot of kids are choosing and it's costing, double or half or significantly more, like, and it's to the point where, like, we have to, like, cut teachers here,
Mhm.
and, like, is it worth it?
Would it help to
Well-
know those numbers? Like, the state average was what, 18.9 last year? Hanover's 23, 24?
Yeah.
I don't know though, Heather, cause I feel like the flip side of that argument is that there are definitely families who move to Heartland
For that
because
reason.
of school
Yep.
choice, right?
Absolutely.
And if you suddenly make it a pay to play kind of dynamic,
Oh, I know, like,
It's-
no, I hear you.
and so there's like an argument to make that like we are still educating the kids of Heartland,
Yeah.
right? When we're spending 23,000 on Hanover, and if that feels like the right fit for kids, I do worry about it. I mean, you're going through this right now. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
going through it as an 8th grader. I do worry about it coming down to like, can your parents afford the $5,000 difference? I think that's a really dangerous.
I agree.
When it comes to
Proposition.
public schools, yeah.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
Separate for private schools, of course. But I think if there's,
How does it work for private schools now? Because like public schools, I kind of get it, but like
it's like the average tuition goes to, then
Okay.
the families pay.
It's just like a set amount,
And the
so if
family
it
pays
costs
the difference.
more than that, the family just has to
yeah.
pay the rest of the tuition.
And is that the same for public private schools like Thetford and stuff like it?
No, because they're public.
Okay.
All right, well,
You know what
We
we'll do.
we will return next month,
So,
and I got some work to do.
'tis the season, right? I guess we covered items for discussion then, cause it was, and we have no motions. So onward, setting the next agenda.
Talk about
Budget?
again.
Budget.
Yeah, wait, do you have a,
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the assessment?
you can't change that, the one that last year.
The
That's
SU
not-
assessment?
It's not testing.
The
Is that-
assessment,
The SU assessment?
your portion of the SU assessment, where are you looking, Colin?
The assessments line goes on the
On
bottom left.
location wide. Yeah,
Goes up
assessments
by
is
2.
under travel.
25.
yes, the
225,
item
yeah,
that's
under
under.
travel. That's the SU budget, right?
I learned that last year.
Oh, okay.
Colleen, you were on that committee. Just a reminder.
They call it different things, it doesn't say
It's
SU
the
budget
SU
on it.
assessment, yeah.
Some nice
It's like
tag.
It's right, you thought it was like star assessments or something,
We're
That would be
$2 million
expensive.
on star assessments.
We are
Yeah.
way over testing our children.
Exactly.
So for
But I
the,
But how else
found
will we know?
I know.
They're gonna be good people. We don't have them fill in bubbles.
are you coming next month to do a presentation?
Is next month's meeting like?
It's I don't know if it's a day.
Is it a vacation day? Or?
I think it might be a vacation
January
day for
2nd.
you. Let me look.
For Wes?
I think for, let me just
Everyone?
check.
It's January 9th.
Yeah, no, we're the second, aren't we?
Well, on the
No, we're
work
the
plan, we
first Tuesday,
changed,
aren't
we
we?
changed
You
it to
come back
the
to school on the
9th
2nd?
on the work plan, because we knew that wasn't a
Yes,
Sunday.
it's
Oh, okay.
as, it's invited in my calendar as
Yeah.
the second right now.
It is?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be.
Is
I
Weatherspoon
would-
still the ninth?
I would not be supposed to be.
So,
I would not be opposed to it being the second either.
Yeah, I'd like,
That's just me putting that out
I
there.
feel
I'm
like
not-
the second's actually good, because like, what if we come back on the second and we have this moment where
Yeah.
we're like fiddling through all these budgets again?
It gives us
I mean,
another
it gives
week
us
to
at
get
least an
together.
extra week to like breathe through.
But it's more like, are
Your
you
face
guys
is
still on
so
vacation?
we are on vacation, there's no school on the second.
What time
Oh,
does, or when does
when
vacation
did you
end?
say school starts again?
The third.
Third, got it.
So, yeah, ours
Oh,
starts
okay.
at
You
9.
guys should take that last day.
I mean, I don't care, it's up to you.
I would be fine with the second, the ninth is selfishly also my daughter's birthday.
Oh,
Let's do.
you can't pick that night.
Wait, how old
Let
is she
you.
turning?
3.
She might not remember.
She'll have
The
video of it.
sensitive one.
She'll have video
Sensitive
of it.
spice over here.
That's right, that's
So
right.
it's
She's
in
not
the
gonna,
calendar.
no, but no, I'm
Her brother will
for the
remind her
second.
that there's.
That's
I'm
right.
for the second.
That's right.
You don't want the second?
No, I am for the
The
second.
second?
Yeah, I am as well, if that.
If it's
Okay.
good.
Alina, why are you not for the second? Oh.
All right, we'll make, it's already in
Why
the
you
calendar
just
for the
weird
second,
It
Beth?
is.
It's
already
There's
done.
no eyebrows.
The best face to watch during school board meetings.
This is my resting face. That is not your resting face. I know your resting face.
So, Wes, that means you're not presenting that night?
Yeah.
Which is fine, because it'll be a big,
Wait, but unless, I mean, like.
Wait, am I
unless you
coming?
want to.
unless you want to,
Do
you don't
want
have
to be
school.
on the second?
Yeah.
It's your last day of vacation.
Yeah, I can.
And you
You
can
guys-
decide, if you decide last minute that you don't want it, it's okay.
We'll put it on the agenda,
Okay.
and if you're not here, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should be
And then
good.
we've got,
Well, I
budget,
don't know if I can survive
And
without
budget.
not hearing about the
Budget and
and we'll have to
Of the
set a
month.
date
I know,
for
right?
the informational meeting.
Okay, yep. Is it also worth putting on there a possible second
meeting. Yep.
January meeting
Yep.
date? Maybe we don't
Yes.
need it, but we might.
For, under items for discussion, yeah.
Yeah, can we do a,
Yeah, but then
Additional
we need to know,
January.
like, budget
Yeah.
on the 16th or 20th.
do we wanna think about, just out of curiosity, do we wanna think about that, like, can we send out like a doodle poll for a second one? You love your doodle polls over there.
I
Like,
do.
can we do like a possible one and like not even, like,
Yes,
at the
if you don't need it.
January 2nd meeting, can we say like, here is the date if we need one, and you can just tell us what the doodle
Yeah,
poll
I can
says?
send out a
But
doodle
will you
poll.
send us a doodle poll of days?
Absolutely.
Between like negotiation meetings, I
Yeah.
just am
We
drowning.
got one Thursday.
I'm drowning on it, I can't wait, Ruby's coming.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah, just drowning for life.
It's gonna be great. I will send out a doodle poll for a second January date. Is there a week you want me to target, or
Just
target a
pick one
couple
of
weeks?
those.
I would say the 16th through the 23rd,
Yeah.
like if we can just
I
keep it
agree.
on the
She and
Tuesday,
Alec could hang out.
Okay.
No, mine's 9.
or the 30th, but that seems like it's just sneaking
Yours
on
not.
our February meeting.
Mine-
Yeah, 16th or either 23rd. Yep.
Just wait.
Do
Is
you,
there anything else to discuss?
do you
on
wanna
this?
just decide that right now?
What?
Or do you need your calendars in front of you?
I have my
16th.
calendar in front of me. It would just be Nikki.
Yeah, I'll send it out. I'll send it out. Okay.
Is there anything else that needs to be reported? I don't know what else is happening. Just like, because break happens and there's not a lot. All right. Is there, need for an executive session? Is there a need for an
Sorry,
executive
we
session?
got distracted over here.
I'm sorry,
Major distraction, it was Colleen's fault.
Then
She takes it.
That is usually true.
if that is the case, then I am asking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye. Wait, do we have an executive session at